And thanks for joining us. The polls are open for another 2 hours in Wisconsin.
There is one statewide race this year for Wisconsin's Supreme Court, but there are a number of local races, including Mayor of Madison. Satya Rhodes-Conway is challenging incumbent Mayor Paul Soglin.
And we have live team coverage of this race. We start with Keely Arthur, who is covering Mayor Paul Soglin's campaign. Keely?
Well, Madison Mayor Paul Soglin and his supporters will be here at the Brink Lounge in just a couple of hours. If re-elected, Soglin would only solidify his spot as Madison's longest reigning leader, but this could be his toughest race yet. He only beat challenger Satya Rhodes-Conway by 1 percentage vote during the primaries. In previous primaries, he's won by at least double that. Now, Soglin says he has the experience and that the city consistently improves under his leadership. If elected, he promises to add 12,000 more units of housing and implement bus rapid transit. Now, those critical of Soglin says he has a bit of a divisive leadership style, but Soglin, in response to that, says he has consistently fought for the people of Madison, and if that means butting heads with some local officials, that is okay with him.
All right, Keely, thank you very much. And Paul Soglin's challenger is Satya Rhodes-Conway.
This is her first time running for mayor. Although she and Soglin agree on many of the same issues, she says Madison needs a change. She's holding a campaign event at Prism Dance Club on Willie Street. Amanda Quintana joins us from there now. Amanda?
Yes, well, Rhodes-Conway was in Alder for 6 years, and for the last 13 years, she's been working at UW at the Mayor's Innovation Project there. And in that, she's been talking to mayors across the country, helping them to set up different innovative things across in their cities. Now, she says that in those two experiences, she thinks that they have set her up to become the next mayor of Madison. Some of the issues that she's advocating for include developing affordable housing, improving transportation, rooting out systematic racial disparities, and preparing for climate change. Now, as Keely said, in the primary, it was a very close race, so we're expecting the race to be close tonight again. Now, if Rhodes-Conway does, in fact, win tonight, she will be the first openly gay mayor of Madison, and the party here at Prism starts at 8 o'clock.
Amanda, thank you. Fitchburg voters are also electing a mayor tonight. Jason Gonzalez is the current mayor, first elected in 2017. He's being challenged by Fitchburg City Council member Aaron Richardson.
Several school districts are also asking voters to approve referendums today. In Sun Prairie, voters are being asked to support a $164 million proposal to build a new high school. There's another question asking for $5 million a year for construction costs and teacher salary raises as well. Now, if both referenda are approved, it would cost the owner of the average $250,000 home another $236 a year in property taxes. And voters are being asked to approve $125 million in referendums in DeForest today. That district growing by roughly 150 students a year. We would like to build a new intermediate school for grades 4 through 6 and also upgrade the high school. A second referendum would increase revenue limits by $2.5 million a year to expand operating costs. If approved, a homeowner's property taxes there would increase by $274 for every $100,000 in property value. And property taxes would also go up in Milton, where the school district wants to cover $60 million in improvements at the schools there. That increase would be right around $330 a year for the $200,000 average home. Milton voters have already rejected 2 referendums over the past 3 years.
Middleton voters have to decide whether or not to triple their stormwater utility bills in order to help cover the damage the system sustained during last year's flooding. If this referendum is approved, that cost would go from $15 to $45 annually for the next 5 years. The city estimates flooding did about $5 million in damage to the stormwater management facilities alone. On everyone's ballot tonight is the race for Wisconsin Supreme Court.
We have our political reporters, Jessica Arp and Rose Schmidt, at locations with the candidates. And while nonpartisan, we may be looking for some political patterns tonight. Jessica explains from the Neubauer Watch Party in Racine. Jess?
Well, yeah, even though this race is nonpartisan, as we do with many statewide races, we'll be looking at some of these partisan strongholds for where votes are coming in tonight and how support looks in those areas. That includes the Milwaukee and Racine area, where we are tonight for Judge Lisa Neubauer, and the Madison area as well. And we know again tonight in both of those places that absentee voter turnout was quite strong. Neubauer voted today in Racine, where she's from. She was appointed to the Court of Appeals in 2008 by Governor Jim Doyle. She's been heavily supported in this race by liberal causes, but has made the case case that she is an independent jurist who does not involve her political beliefs in her decisions. But that does not mean that she won't be considered a liberal member of the court. And that's key in part to why Democrats have been fighting so hard for this seat. If she wins tonight, the balance of the court would remain the same, 4-3. If Hagedorn would win, it would turn to 5-2. But really what we're looking is even beyond tonight into the 2020 election race. If it's 4-3 again, liberals believe they would have the chance to regain the majority on the court in that race. Of course, in 2020, that's when we'll see a heavily contested primary on the Democratic side for President Donald Trump being on the ballot as well. So the implications of this race are much beyond this evening.
All right, Jessica live in Racine. Jessica, thank you. Judge Brian Hagedorn is Neubauer's opponent, also looking to fill that open seat on the Supreme Court left vacant by retiring longtime Justice Shirley Abrahamson.
Rose Schmidt joins us live from Waukesha, where Hagedorn supporters will gather tonight. Rose?
Yes, well, Judge Brian Hagedorn will be looking for high voter turnout in what we call the WOW counties, Washington, Ozaukee, and right here in Waukesha County, where the areas that tend to vote for more conservative candidates. Hagedorn voted this morning in Waukesha. Former Governor Walker appointed him to the Court of Appeals in 2015 after he served as chief legal counsel for Walker. He's received financial backing from conservative groups, but is vowing to keep politics out of the courtroom if elected to the Supreme Court. And a win for Hagedorn tonight would give the Supreme Court and even more of a conservative majority. The deep red WOW counties accounted for just under 20% of the absentee votes cast in the state. Back to you.
Rose, thank you. A reminder that Spanish language ballots are available at every polling place in Dane County. The bilingual ballots are located on the handicap accessible machines. People can select what language they would like to use, similar to what is seen at an ATM. Voters have been coming in all day, but now we might start to see some crowds.
Our Amy Reed joins us live from Patrick Marsh Middle School in Sun Prairie to show us if things are picking up in Sun Prairie at the polls. Amy?
Lines are pretty variable here. Sometimes it's non-existent. There's no one in line. Sometimes we get about 10 to 15 people, but ultimately, overall, pretty quick. We've noticed people are spending only 5 to 10 minutes here, so don't use time as an excuse not to get down here. Already by 2:30, we had about a 28% turnout in Sun Prairie, and there have been hundreds more ballots cast since then. In Madison, they just passed the 27% voter turnout mark at 4 o'clock, but remember, that's during the day before people get off work. The Sun Prairie clerk told me she thinks that could double by 8 tonight, and she hopes it does.
Definitely get out and vote. I know a lot of times these local elections have a smaller turnout, but they really have a much larger impact than a lot of the really big elections. So I do encourage everyone to get out and vote.
In Sun Prairie, people are voting on a $164 million school referendum that would allow the district to build another high school. A complimentary referendum would pay for operating costs and raises at the other schools here. Tonight at 10, we'll let you know if voters approve that, and you can get up-to-date results later on tonight on channel3000.com.
All right, Amy, thank you. Of course, there are plenty of races in our area. You can read all about them as well as those results Amy mentioned at channel3000.com. And we're back with more news after a short break.